Hey everybody, before we hop into this episode, I just want to give you the warning that we are going to discuss a character that has a little bit of suicidal tendencies. So if that is something that you struggle with, just a heads up, maybe not the episode for you. If you do struggle with anything like that, you can find some links and resources in the show notes. But hope you guys enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
How you doing, Zach?
I'm good, man. Good in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? The year is just chugging along as we're like a little over halfway with this year. And we've done an episode a week, essentially, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just flying by, man. Like by the time people listen to this episode, it'll be like September-ish.
Yep, this should be airing in September, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. Again, we are in the past. Or well, technically we're in the future. Like we're never really
devoid of time.
Yeah, we exist outside of time and space when you're listening to this. So, you boring normie time bound people are listening to our stories. We see you, we hear you. No,
the stories have always been told, and they will always be told.
We've been doing the same season over and over again, No, but dude, I'm just excited for stuff with the documentary and lots of other like work related projects. I was talking to you after the last recording we did about a series of comedic skits that I convinced a local plumber to do. So I'm waiting for that to come to pass and just, that it doesn't get like taken away from me or whatever, like, and just become something I don't like. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will let the audience know that I have seen behind the scenes of both of these. I actually had the honor of watching an early cut of Zach's documentary. It's feeling super solid. I'm excited to see the final form and excited for people to experience it. And I have also read these very funny plumber scripts, which is the two sides of the coin of Zach Lovelace, this like heavy brooding side and this comical off the wall side.
Who knows? Yep, that's just how the Lord made me. Stitch the weird things together. No, I do think that they're related. I do think that it's the comedian thing. Like the comedians usually go like darker things, and I think that's just part of like how I'm wired. Not that I am a comedian, but just I like making jokes in my normal conversations like this, and then the ideas I find interesting are devastating. That's always the term I use. They're devastating. Ooh. They got the gut punch, something to walk away with. So I appreciate that, man. I'm excited to share it once it gets done. All of those things, obviously. But what about you, Tommy? You're reviewing my things. But what are you doing?
I just spend all my time reviewing your things. That's what I do.
That's true. That's true.
I'm just here. I'm in the sidecar. You've got your I'm in your little sidecar.
Yeah, man, you're in my sidecar. I like that. And drinking a sidecar. You're in my sidecar drinking a sidecar.
Yeah, it's no, things are good, man. Same. I feel like just balancing work, balancing life. I don't know. I don't have any like distinct projects, but I have been like working more on some of the StoryFellas stuff and ironing that out. I feel like that's just kind of like a constant big project, which is always weird. And this could be a side tangent in our cold open, because there's like a distinct different feeling between a project that has an end, even if the end's far away, like a documentary. In theory, your documentary will be done at some point.
Yeah, or abandoned.
And a project, or abandoned, you're like, nah, and just throw the hard drive away.
Yeah.
No, it's and something that doesn't really have it, like StoryFellas doesn't have an end. And someday it might have an end, unless we do this forever. But there's no end in sight. There's no trajectory or off ramp, really. Like we're just doing it. And sometimes that can almost be, I don't know, it's encouraging because every week we got to show up and we got to do it. But at the same time, sometimes it can be a little daunting to be like, oh man, this thing is just going.
It's a chore. It's just, oh man, I got to do it again. I've said this since day one. It is like the thing I think I'm most tuned into, a talented, like it's just, I don't need to think about it. Like, and I hate to use the word talent. I'm not over here saying like, oh man, you're a comedian, Zach, and you're talented. I'm just telling you all these things about yourself. But just rather like, I'm not stressed about this at all. Like I don't go around studying this type of stuff. I just do it. So that's
Yeah,
fun.
this is that whole concept of like we're literally doing something we do for fun that we probably would do these phone calls anyway,
Hmm.
and we're just recording it. And I follow some like D&D plays and stuff like that, and where it's like, oh, these guys are just like genuinely having fun. Like
Yeah,
they're doing it more for themselves than the production. And I think if that is your production, if
that's a
that's
good
the
way to
thing you're
put it.
making,
Yeah,
then it's makes it really easy to show up and deliver. And because
yeah.
it's something you would be doing anyway. You're just rolling some cameras and mics on it too.
Yes,
So,
agreed. And it does. It's a weekly workout too, like
mhm.
creatively. So I think that's something I just. This is the getting better. Like
Yeah.
in terms of that
Yeah,
kind of
it's
stuff.
the reps. It's like
Yeah.
figuring out and like learning our tricks and being like, okay, what has worked in past things? And also
Hmm.
like the more of these we do, the more like this has happened before where we're like, this is sounding too much like
Oh
Folklore
yeah.
City or something like that, where it's like, shoot, oh, it is. We need to pivot to make it different
Yeah.
enough so we're not telling the same
Which is a
story
good
over and over again.
segue to rolling on my
Okay.
board tonight
Ooh,
because I
we are
have some.
rolling on Zach's board
Really,
tonight.
it's very simple. My board is just two categories: genre and creative requirement. So that's it. And
Ooh.
you're going to need to
Oh, so like
roll.
no even prompt, huh?
No,
Real open.
no, I'm letting us be
Real
open,
open.
but other than just perhaps we roll twice on the creative requirement.
That's always fun. We'll see how hard
Just
the
like
first
tighten it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is one 8-sided die and then one 7-sided die. Or I guess you could just roll two eights, and unless you roll an 8.
All right,
Um,
here we go. My first one is a 4.
4. All right. So let's see. Genre wise, we are doing a horror film. And there's a little note here: aims to evoke fear,
Ooh,
suspense, and horror in the audience. Includes subgenres like
spooky.
supernatural, slasher, and psychological horror. I know he's
Oh
scared
no.
just thinking about it, which is funny because this is kind of
I just
your.
turned.
Oh, oh,
This is my what?
it's the genre that you want to avoid the most, I think. Like you've
It's
just told me before in the past, it's just like it's not really something you seek out to consume. So you're not like, oh man, let me just fart out like a crazy scary
Yeah, I don't
idea.
go out of my way, but then I do have like fond memories of things like The Shore, those stories we've
Hmm.
told. Like The Shore, I really like. It's like super interesting, and it is in that horror genre. So while I don't watch it, like it's a nice challenge because I don't want to just make a blatantly just scary for scary sake movie. Like I want it
Yeah,
to be interesting.
yeah, it's got some deeper
So
themes, obviously. You know, I think that's schlock versus art. Maybe schlock is just entertaining, which is funny
mm,
because I've gotten into some arguments with people on TikTok lately. Go to our TikTok if you don't follow us, but you
uh,
can argue with me. I'll be the one talking to you. I'll tell Tommy almost like because I want him to like grab me by the scruff a little bit. But yeah, the one was about the MCU, and somebody was like, "It's entertainment. It's all entertainment. It's all meant to entertain. Isn't that all that matters?" And I was like, "Isn't there more to life than entertainment?" And the guy deleted his comment. I'm just like,
well,
boring take, bro. Because the whole thing was about cynicism, like,
mhm.
and the idea that like that was the thing that the MCU is riddled with right now. And I really think what that guy's take was just a cynical take that movies can just be nothing but entertaining. They can't do anything greater or higher. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It just flattened it
interesting.
all out. It's just the
Mhm.
ultimate cynical take that like this can only just amuse me. It can't actually call me higher up into my personal life,
Hmm.
or lower. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I get the idea of like it, like movies being entertaining, and not being overly critical of it. I was talking to I think my wife the other day of the whole concept. I think we might have talked about this recently on a show. It's like if you walk out of a movie and you had a fun time, then I think that movie accomplished what it was meant to do. Like
Yeah,
you could argue on a technical standpoint, maybe it wasn't good, but there's plenty of not good movies that
of
I walk
course.
away. I'm like, I really enjoy watching that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like it's not just everything is just entertaining. There are some
Hmm.
things that
Yes.
are entertaining, and then there are things
Hmm.
that aren't. And that's what he had the cynical take of just saying that everything is entertaining. Like people find the bad ones and the good ones entertaining. So that's the point, right? And it's like no, no, we can criticize things for being uh, cynical.
Hmm.
And I think you and I are both not really big fans of cynicism. So I think most people probably. I mean, it's fashionable. It's a trend, and I think the trend is ending. But I digress. I digress. We
Yes.
can.
If you guys want to fight Zach in the comments, he's on TikTok, and
Here I am, baby.
he tends to manage the TikTok. But also, feel free to message us. If you have different takes on things, we do want to hear it. We want to have a
Yeah.
friendly conversation and talk about it. Me and Zach don't see eye to eye on everything. If we ever make a Spider-Verse 2 episode, we will duke it out.
Oof. Hot. Yeah, that's true. So, all right, we just rolled for a horror film. All of that was from our horror observation here. Now, if you'll roll another 8-sided for a creative requirement.
A creative requirement is another 4. I've got
interesting.
So many 4s.
You picked.
I just have like a big JPEG that just says 4 on it over here.
Yeah. I rolled a 4, all right.
I rolled 4.
So your creative requirement is that it must feel like it came out in the 1980s.
Huh.
So it's a
like
horror film.
The movie needs to feel like that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay, interesting.
I think that just means pulling from common horror films from the 80s, as well as just things that were popular back then. I don't think it means totally going like nostalgia bait type thing, but even pulling actors, it's like, okay, so the only people we can choose to be in these movies are people who were hot in the 1980s, which is a lot of people. Like, I don't mean hot, like, ooh, they were hot, but like their career
popular.
was big. And so it's like, this is a movie that you could imagine in an alternate universe came out in the 1980s. Okay. But if you want to roll another one,
yes,
that'll give us a tighter little note. Yeah.
Like right now we've got a horror movie in the 1980s. It's a 5.
Okay. Cool. Wow. Okay. So now it must have a real life person in it. So, i.e., someone like Gandhi. Now they don't need to be a main character. But it just has to have a real life person.
Oh.
So, I mean, you could kind of combine those two creative requirements and make them like two people who were big or somebody who was big in the 80s. That could be kind of interesting, actually.
Reagan was president in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Reagan was president. Jimmy Carter was president at the very beginning. I mean, you could pick so many celebrities. Arnold Schwarzenegger was huge.
Literally.
Was literally huge.
He was huge.
Enormous back then. Yeah.
Madonna, Michael Jackson. I just typed in popular 1980s people.
That's cool.
Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was probably somewhat popular. He died in 91. So
yeah, I mean, he would have been at his like almost peak at the beginning of the 80s or so. Yeah, Bono, all of it. I mean, you pick any entertainment people for sure. And there's plenty of politicians too. It's not just Reagan, although that is a good like solid 1980s feel. Go ahead.
Cool. I've got an idea.
All right. Let's go.
Let's go. And this actually kind of just works because I had this idea earlier this week and it's like, oh, this is kind of a fun concept. And since we are kind of lacking like an actual prompt plot, I could shoehorn it in and see if it works.
Go for it.
But I like the idea of this like carnival that comes to town.
Okay.
And like basically all I've got is bad things happen if you lose your ticket. Like it's like a fun, joyful carnival, but like if you misplace your ticket or the staff catch you without the ticket, like bad things happen. Dark supernatural things happen.
Nice.
You don't want to be in this carnival without a ticket.
Yeah. That reminds me a little of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Speaking of schlock, which I think came out in the 80s. Chiodo brothers being the special effects guys, but it's not like that thought out. They're just like aliens who look like clowns who show up and kill people. But you could lean into that as kind of an homage type thing, and you just roll with and like Tim Burton. Tim Burton was big in the 80s too. So
yeah,
we could roll.
I think clowns, but like a carnival is like already kind of partially scary, or it's not hard to make scary.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think something like that, something like semi-supernatural. Plus 80s, it feels like that's kind of prime picking for a carnival.
Yeah, that was still very big.
Like carnivals,
you know, like that type of American culture. Because we'd had this conversation before about like circuses and stuff have really died out. And like local county fairs are still around, but yeah, just straight up carnival. shows up into town, and you
Mhm.
got the carnies and everything. The film could be called Carnies, which feels like a really 1980s like horror film, and it's just about like killer carnies. And
Mhm.
we could go from there. We're like, yeah, one like one reason they kill you is that you lose your ticket.
Yeah, and maybe it's not that. Maybe there's like, maybe it's more grounded than that. Maybe they're just real, or there's not a supernatural element to the situation. Maybe there's
Yeah.
like crime happening, and then some.
Well, I do
Well, that's.
think
I feel like
horror
it
has to
needs
have some sort of
super.
supernatural for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. If
I
it's
mean,
just crime, it's not horror anymore.
no, yeah, and you and I are quite partial to giant monsters, slash
Hmm.
monsters in general. So we could just develop a pretty scary. I know that It was also big in the 80s. Um,
Hmm.
the Stephen King novel slash story. I think it was in the early 90s is when the TV adaptation happened. But yeah, I mean that's a killer clown right there. If you want to go that route, I mean we don't even have to be focused on that we might be getting ourselves into a corner here with the killer clowns. Um,
I do like a clown though. Like a clown is kind of like a scary, like
yeah.
for like something that's designed to be like this funny, joy bringing thing. It is a really scary
Oh yeah,
like character.
it is.
It's
I've
this,
actually watched this video series on YouTube about how the clowns were really Nephilim. Have I talked to you about this?
no, I don't think so.
It's really
I feel like your
fascinating.
whole YouTube thing is just like algorithm is Nephilim.
It's all just Nephilim. Oh, Bigfoot's a Nephilim. Yeah, but the guy actually has like a decent theory. I can't sit here and articulate it perfectly for you, but basically, um, there are demonic, like how clowns came about basically came from like demons in India that English
Hmm.
people brought back like the facial paint and expressions and stuff and put them into characters in plays as being the
Hmm.
goofball characters. Because before that, clowns were really neutral colored and in England.
Hmm.
And so clowns that we know today really do have like lots of teeth. They're a really weird looking thing when you look at it historically, the evolution of the clown. And so he's
Hmm.
saying like, hey, if these were truly demons and the lore of these demons is they were like regional gods in India, that kind of tracks
Hmm.
back to a biblical understanding of what a Nephilim would be as like a human demon hybrid. And
Hmm.
yeah, anyway, it's really interesting.
That is interesting.
But again, demonic clown isn't really, that's like the only thing that happens with clowns nowadays. I would almost feel more inclined to say a clown is our good guy. And, it's
Oh,
like you push into that direction and then something else, you know what I mean? Like that opens up my creative juices here a little bit.
yeah. You never see the clown as the good guy. Um,
Yeah. He's like, no, no, I'm a good guy.
I'm a good clown.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I can really think of is Jimmy Stewart in The Greatest Show on Earth, which is Best Picture winner, I think, in '53.
Hmm.
Cecil B. DeMille, but it has Charlton Heston in it, and then Jimmy Stewart plays a clown who is really a fugitive on the run, and so
Hmm.
he's just like kind of a sad character, but he's like a real life doctor, and he's very helpful when like all these accidents happen and stuff, and he's just a solid guy. And then
Hmm.
you come to find out at the end that he's been on the run or whatever. But anyway, that's the only clown I can think of that's like a good guy.
There's like
Oh, the
good
Joker.
clowns. Oh no, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. There's if you want to call what he's not really a clown, but he's got clown attributes from Inside Out, the imaginary friend.
Oh, sure, a Bing Bong or whatever.
Bing Bong, yeah. He's got that like clown voice, the
That's
you
true.
gotta go save her.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of like
yeah. You can maybe say like Krusty the Clown from The Simpsons is good every once in a while. I don't know. Good
yeah,
is
he's
kind of a
kind of like an
stretch.
anti-hero a little bit. He just wants to help himself.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, this is an interesting
Anyway,
kind of side street, I think. But since we spent enough time here, I think we can either choose to depart or find some other, or we could look at like top '80s films, like top grossing '80s films, and
uh
kind of go from there. That's actually an interesting
yeah.
thing.
Are you not liking the clown thing? Because the
Oh, I
other
don't mind
alt
it.
for the
I
I
I,
was gonna
I don't
say
mind
is
it.
like
Go ahead.
what's it called? It's Silent Night, whatever. John David Harbour, where he's Santa Claus and he like fights all the
Oh
bad
yes,
guys.
yes, yeah. That is that Silent Night. That sounds right.
I don't know
Yes.
if it's Silent Night, but I'm gonna actually, so people don't get mad, I'm gonna look it up. David Harbour,
Uh,
uh, Harbor Christmas movie.
yeah,
Christmas.
yeah.
Violent Night. That makes more sense.
Ah,
Violent
Violent
Night.
Night.
But like, what if there was like like, what if there was just like a ripped clown? Like, it's basically Die Hard, but the main guy is a clown.
Oh yeah, and he's just at a circus.
Yeah, and
And
he's like the clown has to like he's just kind of this guy down his luck, and but then he's maybe he has military training or something, and then
that's
like
kind of cool. Yeah, he's like a
when like
Vietnam vet.
yeah, like like some monster supernatural thing happens, like he has to like he has like I don't know, maybe like a mother and like a single mother and a
Yeah,
kid. Like he has a small entourage, but he's like the muscle and the guy he's like trying
I
to
like
save
that.
everybody.
I like that a lot, actually. That's
Because it's
cool.
just funny because like he doesn't have time to get the
The
makeup on.
makeup
Like he's
off?
like
No,
in his
totally.
he's like in his bozo
Yeah.
costume the entire time. He's like, kid, I need you to make it to my locker. I have a gun in there. I
Yeah,
need you to
that's
bring it back to me
hilarious.
quick.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're gonna find a loaded handgun in there. It doesn't have a safety on it. It's got a hair trigger. He's just like he's down to clown
He is
ASAP.
down to clown, man. That's funny. I'm into like this vibe. I'm liking like some diehard clown fights
Yeah, yeah.
demons at a carnival
I like that a
is
lot. Yeah.
is really cool. I
What
got
if?
like
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I have an
I
idea
was
for the
gonna
animal
I
or for
was
the monster. Go ahead.
okay. I was gonna say we could do David Harbour, but if we're gonna do 1980s, like it could be Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah, it could be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like it could be any of these guys. Like I think Bruce
Yeah,
Willis would be funny though because
it's
he's
like the same
obviously
movie.
yeah
It's just
exactly
he's
yeah
like
he just got
just a clown.
typecast. But yeah, he's just like I like that a lot actually because then he can kind of be your everyman. That's what made Bruce
Mhm.
Willis like nobody saw this coming because Bruce Willis was in Moonlighting. I think that's what the show was called, and he was like a comedic style character. And then he got cast in Die Hard, and people were like, "What? That's not going to work." And so for him to be able to be this like clown. I imagine have like suspenders and everything. And he has like the big hoop pants,
Yeah.
and like a wife beater on, and then some simple clown stuff.
Here's the flower that sprays water and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, and he like has it hooked up to spray booze, and he's just like into his own mouth. And I think it'd be cool if he had a friend slash colleague that was a dwarf.
Okay. Okay. That could be fun. Yeah. Like that fits in with the carnival thing.
Yeah, exactly. And
Uh,
we could make him, he's not tropic. He can be somewhat sophisticated. It's not just that it's funny because he's a little person, but rather that is just kind of where that kind of person would end up. And the dwarf guy can be like the inexperienced clown who like, hey man, I feel for vets, because he was a Vietnam vet. And he's like, I wanted to give you a gig that was pretty easy and could help you exercise your demons. And he says, some people exercise their demons in therapy, some people do it on the stage, and then that's like kind of the thing. But the bad guy, I thought, which would be interesting, is the circus animals actually end up being demons or aliens of some kind. And so they're all like tailored to being okay. So a demon elephant, a demon lion, that could be really cool. That way, each one has kind of a tier to it, and you kind of work your way up the animals.
That'd be cool. Yeah. And yeah, there's like, it's just him fighting a demon elephant.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is actually really cool.
Or maybe there's
Um,
I got it. I could see the poster. It's Bruce Willis, and he's kind of just like standing there and he's got the wife beater on and the hoop pants. We have this dwarf, played by Kenny Baker, who was fresh off of playing R2D2. And he's on the poster, and then a chimpanzee. And so there's like one good animal that helps them.
There's one good animal. So wait, it's him, and then his dwarf friend, and then a chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Uh, that's if I saw that movie poster, I'd probably go see the movie. Like
I
that
probably would
sounds like
too.
really
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. And
This
so
is.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're drifting a little from horror into just like action.
I think action
Like
horror could be where we end up. It's like clearly a
yeah,
Die Hard thing, but then they cranked up the horror element. It's basically Die
mhm,
Hard meets Hellraiser at a circus.
yes,
So we can get kind of
yes,
Xenobite-y, weird, gross with the animals and stuff, and that Yeah, they're basically flesh
Yeah.
transformers, and they,
Yeah.
whatever they were
So
hiding.
I think let's start at the beginning a little bit. Let's come back to the beginning.
Yeah.
There's this, maybe it's early on, like the sun hasn't even set yet. It's like setting up the carnival,
Hmm.
and we're backstage, and Bruce Willis is putting on his makeup, and I don't know, griping about this. Like maybe this is the only gig he could figure out, he could find. He's talking to his friend. Let's give these guys
Yeah.
names.
So I
Let's
think
give
Jack is a pretty good Bruce Willis name. Just boom, classic 80s hero name. And then we can go with um, for our
Sid.
dwarf Sid. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Jack and Sid, and then the chimp can be Daisy. Whatever.
Daisy the chimp.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe their whole act is like, it's revolving around Daisy the chimp. And so, because I think that's also another thing. You have the Any Which Way But Loose with the orangutan with Clint Eastwood. And so you have a little bit of that where it's like a baby chimp, as Hollywood would have it. You don't have like a big beefy chimp that's going to chew your face off. But Bruce Willis holding the baby chimp, Daisy, on the poster, and he's like smoking in the clown makeup.
Do we want Daisy to be a girl? Because something about like having like three dudes.
Oh,
like,
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to change it to be anything.
Like peanut or butter.
Butter's okay. Butter's okay.
Butter.
Yeah, Butter the chimp.
When you say the chimp, like when you say it in full, it sounds so much funnier. Butter the chimp. Introducing Butter the chimp.
Yeah, exactly. And,
like,
and maybe
what do you call? They soak him down with butter and just like let him wrestle people. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. When she was little, the only thing she'd eat was butter. I don't know, or he. I guess it's a boy. But yeah, so we have. I imagine we open up on Jack the clown, like shooting cans in the back. There's even, I want to pull a little bit of Lethal Weapon in there from the 80s, where you have, that's basically what the formula we have here, where it's like Lethal Weapon. He was a special forces guy, Mel Gibson's character. But he's damaged. His wife died in an accident. So there's a scene early on in the first one where he puts the gun in his mouth and he's about to pull the trigger. You can kind of get that. You could do that with him, where he's like, I don't have anything to live for except for making kids laugh. And sometimes that's all you need to keep going. And so anyway, he's just like got a loaded gun on the table and is wrestling with his demons. And yeah, he saw his buddies die face down in the muck in Nam.
So are you saying that Jack is suicidal? Are you on it with that edge to him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think he saw some stuff in Nam and is just, yeah, he lost his buddies. He came back, and maybe he had his whole, like, all of his brothers. We kind of have like a Saving Private Ryan thing. It's like me and my two brothers went to Nam, and only I came back, and and maybe he got shot up too. So he's got literally like Vietnamese shrapnel in him or something. Like I stepped on a
maybe he
landmine.
walks with a limp or something.
Yeah, everybody thinks it's part of the act.
Yeah. Yeah. What's his clown name?
That's a good question. I mean, it's probably the name of the movie. We can wait to find out.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
But then Sid is also.
Here's another important. Here's another important question. Is he good at being a clown? Because I picture he's not, but like he's like kind of like a lousy clown. But is he actually really good? Can he like put it on? You think, or does that not make sense?
I think he could put it on. I think that's part of the Bruce Willis thing, is that he actually had a comedic background, and so he can actually do something funny. I actually like that his clown name is Lousy.
Lousy is so good, and that might be the title, man.
Yeah, dude.
How do you spell lousy? Is it Louse?
No, Y.
S-E? Or sorry.
Yeah,
Lousy
you meant EY. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lousy.
Lousy the Clown is a powerful title, or
It
just
is.
lousy. I think just lousy.
It is, yeah. Well, and it's also it's either very poor or bad or disgusting. So I do think that he's kind of let himself go, and they maybe just green is one of his colors, brown is another color that he has, and he's just Lousy the Clown. And maybe they spray him down with like the sudsy, carbonated water bottle things and stuff. And the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the whole thing is getting him. Maybe it's not Sid, maybe it's Sud. No,
So, that doesn't make any sense for his real name to be Sud.
it's not his real name, I guess.
I
Yeah,
was-
because I mean, we could go by his clown name, but we don't need to have everybody have like two names.
so is Sid a clown also, or is he like another
I think
like
Sid is
type
a
of
clown.
character?
I think Sid is a clown,
Okay.
and maybe also the manager of the circus. It could be both.
Okay, that could help because if I'm gonna mix up with his double name Jack Lousy. If Jack
Lousy
is
Jack.
like, if he's drinking, I don't know. This place is probably not up to code. I was gonna be like, if he's drinking, not doing a good thing, then him being the manager, like, it's because they're friends. He's like
Yeah,
not letting him go.
yeah,
But also, I would imagine other employees are doing the same thing.
yeah.
Like
I mean, this is kind of a dead end. I think we don't shy away from that. It's not like this isn't the '50s circus, and they can even say that. Like Sid is like, the circus hasn't been great since the '50s. Really, uh, since the Korean War, and then Bay of Pigs and Vietnam and all this stuff. It's like the people who used to fill out the circus. Um, now everybody's just a sad clown.
Yeah, I think he's shooting cans at the beginning because I think a very powerful opening image is just out in this field. There's just
Yeah.
like these cans, and then the cans start knocking over, and like they're like shooting. Like he's a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
And then it like the camera pans, and it's a clown, like a fully dressed clown, like just
Yeah.
shooting these cans. And then Sid pops out. He's like, "Hey man, we gotta finish
Showtime.
getting ready.
Yeah.
Showtime!" And then he's like. And he like puts his gun like in his big pants or something,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it's just like, and then Barry style, it just cuts full screen
Oh, I
title
love
card
that.
to Lousy.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Um,
I think Lousy, as well as you could weave in Butter. By Butter is like going and fetching or putting up new bottles. So he's like, Butter, Butter, get out there. And Butter just kind of like does the ape walk out there and like puts up the bottles and stuff. Yeah.
that's really cool. Like I love their dynamic already. Like you've
Yeah.
got the boss who's Sid, you got Lousy. You're establishing that's also like a really good image because you get that he is not really into what he's doing. You get that he's actually very capable with his gun.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're establishing a
All
lot
with no
in a
dialogue,
very
yeah.
small. Yeah, no dialogue. So then we kind of see the carnival. Like I still like it being a little early. Clearly, like if the sun's not even close to setting. Like this is like the carnival before people get there.
Yeah, yeah.
And you see, I do really like the idea of there's this one young guy who's a try-hard clown.
Oh,
And
I like
he's
that.
like he's
Yeah.
like really posh, and he's like, I went to
I went to clown
for
school.
like 3
Yes,
years.
yes, exactly.
And then
I
he
actually
like
take it seriously.
and he potentially dies pretty quickly.
Oh, he dies
Things
almost
pretty quick.
immediately. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, I like that a lot. His name can be Stan.
Stan the other clown.
Yeah, Stan the
That's-
other clown. That's all he gets. That's your
mean-
credit, bro.
I'm gonna say Stan the tryhard clown.
That's good.
Um,
Yeah.
I've got my little names
Perfect.
list, so that there's a
Yeah.
lot of names so far in this one, especially since they have double names.
We can also kill off a lot of other people like animal tamers and stuff.
Yeah.
Acrobats. Like they can be, he can maybe be sweet on an acrobat girl.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that a lot, like a trapeze artist kind
Yeah.
of person.
Yeah. I
And
like
then
that.
she's like, I don't know if she's like mildly flirty to him or if it's like, because I feel like he'd be a little brash. I don't think he would be so like introverted that he wouldn't ever talk to her. I think he
No.
would talk to her, and then it's more just like if she's there too, she's probably like, "Nice try, honey," and like keeps on moving on. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then that develops a little bit throughout the movie.
I like the idea that the trapeze act is straight up like Russian. So they barely speak English.
Oh,
So there's just, again, it's like a group of outsiders kind of thing. And they're just like, Tovarish, when they're just out there smoking. And then he's just like, hey,
Yeah.
baby, if you could speak English, we can make this work. And sometimes we don't even need to speak. And she's just like says something to him in Russian
yeah,
or
she's
spits
like,
or something.
She's like, fun, you funny man.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you smile, funny man. Ooh, yeah, whatever. And she's just, yeah, like, clearly she gets it, but she's also like leaning into
Hmm.
like, hey, we're not gonna
That
cross paths.
that I just want to pause the show. That is a recurring theme for you, Zach. That you I think you like a language barrier. Like that's like a
Yeah,
fun like thing. Like it's a fair thing to like. It's like fun. It creates complexity. It's harder
it
to.
is, and it can be a cute thing, and it pushes you into cinematic territory where you have to
Hmm.
find ways to express things without words,
Hmm.
or the words are just they're a little bit more important when they can cross the language barrier. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's probably some weird, deep rooted reason. Who knows? First girl I dated was Polish, so who knows?
You're just imprinting all.
I just yeah,
Didn't
it's
speak a
just
lick of English.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't even know if we were dating.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know if we really broke up.
That actually for a future one, that's actually really funny if someone's like, yeah, we're like she's my girlfriend and they don't speak English and like there's no acknowledgement from them. Like the person genuinely thinks they're dating and they're
Yeah,
just like, what?
they just happen to
I
be in the
just
same place sometimes. It's like because that would you'd have to like suspend a lot of disbelief to make that work. But so
yeah. Oh, my
so
girlfriend's in the record store. She's over in the corner. It's like, oh, do you want to say hi? No, 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 no. Just let her be. Just let her
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. She doesn't like it when you talk to her. She's not really into that. Like she gets really mad when I hold her hand. And she's like doesn't speak English and she's like yelling at him. Um, yeah, so I think we have our cast here of killables and like an extension of the
Yeah,
cast.
I feel like when we break into the supernatural stuff, I don't know if this makes sense because the carnival is just usually like in an open field somewhere. I think something supernatural like creating a wall, trapping
Yeah,
people in the carnival is interesting because I keep thinking like if there was panic, what would just keep people from all just leaving the carnival?
yeah.
Like I almost feel like if we want these scenes of people hiding and like being scared, we need to trap them like some supernatural force or
Yeah, it's either
something
that
needs
or
to
it's just
come
like
in.
on the edge of town and
Hmm.
like their cars get blown up pretty quickly. And so we're just in the middle of Iowa, right? Or somewhere
Hmm.
like Indiana and it's
Hmm.
corn country and it's like miles and miles. So they're just going to catch us if we go anywhere. So we might as well fight. You know what I
I
mean?
do like that idea if it's like surrounded by like cornfields and then someone like some people run into the
They
cornfields,
try
but
and
then
get out. Yeah.
there's like creatures in the cornfields that get them. So like
Yeah.
they're like, don't go in the corn, stay out of the corn, stay out of the
Yeah.
corn.
There are children in the corn. That's how the children of the corn happens, right? Like that's what they say. That's the famous line from that movie, right?
That is a famous line from that movie.
There are children in
Um,
the corn. Yeah.
uh, I think that's good. That gives them a reason. Like they can't escape.
Yeah.
They're like we're trapped in the carnival until sunrise. Um, and then obviously like there's like people, and I think there's like just background people. There's people hiding
Yeah.
and obstacle people. But then your main crew is you got Sid, you got um I want to say I'm gonna call him Lousy. I know his name
That's
is
fine.
Jack, but
Jack,
like
yeah.
Lousy is
Yeah,
and then
Lousy,
we've got
Sid,
Butter.
Butter, and Stella, the trapeze artist.
Yeah, I think they have to find Stella though, unless you want her to just immediately be part of their
I think
entourage.
when we just open up on him in the field and we come back and he's like walking back through, we can do kind of a tracking shot behind him and we see him and he stops for a second and he's like, "Hey baby, when are you gonna give me that kiss?" And then she just blows cigarette smoke in his face, just you know.
It is
Um,
really funny that there's this whole life and death scene and she's part of it and she doesn't understand anything that's going on that they're
yeah,
talking about.
I mean that's okay with me.
That would be that would be fun. I do like the idea that she's tough too. Where
Yeah,
he's like they're like there's this one scene at some point where they're explaining the plan, like they're whispering, like there's like this
yeah,
like there's like demon or something or this like possessed thing. And then they're like, okay, so we're gonna be sneaky and we're gonna do that. And then like and it's just like everyone understand and she's like nods and then she just jumps out and tackles the thing and
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
That's good. See, the language barrier produces conflict, which is great on screen. I think
Yep.
something I can hear in my mind the announcer saying like Stella, the Siberian star, and so that's the whole thing is that she's straight up she is from Russia, but this
Hmm.
idea that she's the Siberian shooting star or whatever, and she's got this sequined outfit that she wears, and I think all of that is just writes itself. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And so what is our bad guy at this point? Because I think the stakes are going to be survival. That's the classic kind of horror thing. The um, inner journey that Lousy goes on is actually finding value, wanting to survive, right?
Hmm.
Like he's kind of forced into a situation, helping other people get around, um, and helping children survive, that kind of thing. But he himself needs to decide. You know, he needs to let go of his ghosts, basically,
Hmm.
let go of his brothers that died in Nam.
Hmm.
So, yeah, what are our bad guys? I like the animal thing. I don't know about you. It just seemed kind of cool,
Yeah,
different.
I think they're like these kind of almost mutated cursed animals. I like the big bad being something with intellect but still bestial. Like not
Okay.
necessarily like I don't really picture a wizard per se where he's like I'm controlling the animals. That feels a little like I think
Yeah.
everything is like dark and monstrous. Even the big like whatever's controlling like there's like a big or it is the elephant maybe. The elephant
That's
is
kind of
like
cool.
this
Yeah.
elephant, but like his big round feet are like claw esque, and he's like
Yeah.
muscular and stuff. But like it's clear early on that this thing is like calling the shots. Like it is controlling the other
Yeah.
animals.
I think, yeah, exactly. It's killed the animals. And maybe the whole thing is like the animal tamer guy buys animals off of someone illegally, and the guy brings it and he's like, hey, there's something in here. I don't even know where it came from. They caught it in Mexico. I don't know what it is, but it is pissed off. And it's kind of quoting the thing. I don't know what's in there, but it's angry and pissed off or whatever, something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it takes over these other animals, and then it thinks, it's got a hive mind. So it is maybe like the thing even, but it only affects animals.
Hmm.
And it really just wants to
You,
eat people.
I don't know if it should have a hive mind because I think that would be really tricky for them to like do things. Because I feel like if they're gonna like sneak attack animals, if they do that and it's a hive mind, they will all
That's
converge on
fair.
them.
That's fair.
But I do think like there's like this like uniform thing. They just don't. They're not all conscious of everything. Um, there's like this weird hierarchy, like ants almost. Like they're just acting. They're not actually like
Well, I mean,
thinking
that's
as
like a
much.
classic. I mean, this is an animal in general, but you mean just like
I guess
extra
it's true.
ferocious because it's possessed by something.
Yeah, it's like they've got. I don't know. They're corrupted and
What if they're just zombie
made
animals?
big. They could be zombie animals. Yeah, they could be
Because
things
that's
simpler.
kind of what we're looking at is like just dumb acting, kind of thing, but they're just and maybe actually that's kind of an interesting point is that the stop that they're at is like one that they've been there for several years, like that, like decades. This circus has stopped in this town in Indiana, and it's actually
Hmm.
like a graveyard where they dump some of these animals.
Mm.
And so that comes back, and so all these other zombie animals come out, infect the new ones, and then we're dealing with, a crowd. It's not just like 15 animals, it's like 30 animals, 40 animals.
Yeah.
Um,
So is there some magic to end said curse? Is that what they're aiming for? Or are they just trying to get out, or are they trying to kill the elephant? What do you think they're trying to do?
um, I don't know. I feel like the less explanation is probably better.
Hmm.
I know,
Plus they're animals. I don't know where they would get this exposition from.
yeah, they just want
Like there's
revenge. It's just the revenge because they were mistreated. I think that's kind of
mhm.
maybe a little bit of a social message we can get at with this, because a lot of circuses nowadays are out of business because of the way they've treated their animals in the past.
Mm.
And PETA comes down really, really hard on them,
Mhm.
like sending death threats to the ringleaders' houses and stuff like that. It gets wild.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think we could lean on that. We could be somewhat sympathetic to that. I don't think that's a good thing that PETA does, but that we can. I think most people would bite down on like, oh, they were just mean to their animals, and
Yeah.
they would just blow through them, and yeah, like, and it could
Yeah,
be
we like
just this one
establish
guy.
yeah, we establish some kind of like animal keeper who's like rude and bad to the animals, and then
Yeah,
he gets killed off pretty quickly by like the big elephant.
yeah, and we can balance it out by having Lousy be really nice to Butter and all the other animals. He's like kind of drunk
Yeah.
beforehand. He's dumping some of his booze in the like the tiger thing. The tiger's like licking it up. Um, like I just think that's fun. Like he's
Yeah,
not,
that is
it's
fun.
because I think there are people that are legitimately there in the circus nowadays and back then that just actually cared about the animals, the bears that would dance and stuff like that. You know, it wasn't just total abuse. And so I want to be a little fair with that and show that it's like just this one guy. And maybe Sid even has been like, I wish I could get rid of him, you know, but he brings in like the bears and all of that bring in a lot of cash. So he's a little
Hmm.
compromised, but he's somewhat sympathetic, you know.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's cool.
I think that's cool. I think it's like backstage when he's like eating this like gross like this big Philly or something, and then like he's like he hands it to Butters, and Butters takes like a big bite, and then he eats it. He's just like eating
Yeah,
after the
yeah.
monkey.
Yeah, you know that's how AIDS started, right? It is in the 80s, so I don't know.
So then do we want I guess he if his love interest is Stella, we don't really need the single mom and kid, right?
No, I think we can have some survivors, but they don't need to be like named or anything.
Yeah, they're just around.
They're
He's
just
just
around.
helping. He
Yeah.
he like kind of like enters a party of people
Yes.
hiding, and he like saves them and then moves on. And he's like,
Yes.
good to hide somewhere better.
I think oof, what if because the Stan the try hard clown, I kind of want
Hmm.
him to get killed very
Yeah.
quickly,
Hmm.
obviously. But I do want there to be human zombies too. There's something
It'd be,
about that where like he has to, you know, fight. I think that's kind of cool.
mhm. It could be like Stan is the first one to go
I think the
because
animal
like
trainer guy would have to be the first one to go.
yeah. Oh, that's true. But like that could happen like without people knowing. Like he's like
For
back
sure.
in the pins and like he's like oh and he dies. But then Stan is that what we said?
Yeah,
Stan is
Stan the
the
try
tryhard
hard.
clown?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's like the show, like people are in the street, like in between tents, and like he's like juggling. He's like, "Hey kids, let me tell you about this." And he's like, and then there's like I don't know a bear. Like usually there's like a bear that he does like stunts
Yeah.
with or something. But then like the bear is like, it's like,
And he's like, "Come on,
wait.
Rusty, why aren't you doing it? Come on, man!" You know, and
Come
it
on,
just,
Rusty. Why? Yeah, he's like, Rusty, why is your, do you have brain showing out of your head? And then Rusty's like, oh, and just like, he's like, oh, and just like, and everyone, that's like what sets off the panic. And
yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
like, ah, and then slowly they realize it's zombie animals.
yeah,
And then they realize the corn thing, don't go in the corn.
yep,
And then people hide. And at that point, we are like in hiding with Lousy and Sid
yeah,
and Butter and maybe I feel like them finding Stella shortly after, like
yeah,
them not
yeah.
immediately
Maybe she's
there.
at the top of a pole and she's like stuck up there, and they're like, "Oh, you know, there are like animals trying to get her up the pole."
I I think his gun is in his like dressing room or something, or in
Yeah,
his locker,
he's
and
like,
he's like,
"Butter, get my
Butter,
gun."
yeah, Butter, get my
Yeah,
gun. And then Butter's like holds the
yeah,
gun
and I
as
like that Butter. We set up a little arc for Butter where Butter has to like confront his dead mom of like years
oh.
past, you know,
Oh,
and
that's
it's like,
interesting.
you know, and they're like talking to each other and stuff. Um,
I like that he has Butter as kind of like a child figure.
yes,
And like
yes,
there's this like if Butter goes to get the gun and he's like sneaking around and stuff, and then they're being attacked.
it's like
And
Butter,
they're like,
shoot it, Butter.
oh
You
no,
know?
there's I like the line that like they're like in a tiger cage, like and
Yeah,
the thing's trying to get in. And then like they see Butter and Butter's like oh, 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 and like real scared. And then he's like Butter, just like I taught you. And then Butter's like two hands grabs it and just like shoots the I don't know tiger in the head or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like that. He's like, that's my boy, that's my boy.
yeah. That's my boy. That's my boy.
And then he gives him and then
I like
then
that
he
Butter
has his
accidentally
weapon.
shoots somebody too, though.
Like right after like
Yeah,
he's like celebrating and he just like shoots this guy in the leg.
yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be great. I think, you know, obviously we're in like horror comedy type thing.
Yeah, I feel like having like this clown protagonist, boozy clown protagonist, there's no way to not do it a little comedy.
Oh, a lot of company. I mean, I literally just thought that at one point he's got to get in the clown car. It's like, everybody get in. and they have to like drive. And the elephant's like stomping on the car. That's cool.
Yep. Yep. I think Sid gets it. Like he gets the car
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, "Get in," and then Lousie's like, "We're not gonna all fit." He's like, "Trust me, I fit 18 people in here
Yeah,
once.
exactly. Yeah. No, I like that a lot. It's
Think
like,
like a clown."
yeah. Think like a clown, move like a clown.
It's like Jack's like butt is hanging out of the window of the cars.
Yeah.
He's like, "The tiger's biting it."
Yeah. Oh, oh.
This is a fun world. Like
Yeah.
so we got big so I think this is a good intro. We got the very beginning. We've got the inciting incident of the bear biting Stan.
Stan. Yeah.
And then I think that's like the callback of like eventually like maybe midpoint they're like, "Oh, the people are turning into zombies too.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
isn't good."
That's the next level that it goes up. Yeah.
Yep. I think Stan is almost like the second to biggest bad. Like the elephant's the big bad, and then he has to like fight Stan. And
Agreed.
maybe, and it would be. I keep turning this into more and more comedy. I know I'm jumping around a lot, but like Stan is like I picture him as this like kind of like skinny, scrawny kid. And he's like, "I can take you," and then the elephant like grants him like demon powers, and then like it's like, and he like just banes up, and
Yeah,
he's
he
just
gets, like,
like
bane,
muscular.
yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh shoot."
I thought you were going to do like the Master Roshi thing again, where he's just like, he's not actually, that was just his clown outfit. And then he's just, whoa,
it's just like big
Stan is huge. You know? Yeah, I think that a couple of scenes popped in my mind. You get the strongman. The strongman has to fight a gorilla. That's kind of cool. He's like, "No, you run. I'll take him." You know, and he like the strongman is like, but also that the
I thought you were gonna say the strongman immediately dies.
I
Like,
did think that
I
too.
can take him, and then the gorilla just kills him.
Yeah. No, I think as well that the I like that it's by like a nuclear power plant. That's maybe kind of the thing is like
Part of like
we
yeah,
just
yeah.
punched in the kind of classic 80s sense where it's like that's why, and it's like that's the rules don't matter really because
Yeah.
okay, Stan came back to he's irradiated at this point and he's just
Yeah.
evil. Like that's it. And so we can have all of these evil show goers too, like these circus goers, just normal people. And yeah, I like the idea of Butter saving a child across
That's
the
fun.
trapeze thing. You know, maybe I got it. Okay, so Stella grabbed a child, put her on her back, and she climbed the trapeze thing, and she's way up there. And there's maybe like a big snake or other monkeys and stuff climbing up the pole. And so then Butter climbs up the other side and goes across the wire and is like trying to help the child go across the wire. I think that's really oof.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so many cool scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
Moving it, the hard part is going to be moving things around and keeping it, you know, we're like in the big tent right now. Like that's really where all this stuff is happening, where we need to get to the cage. I think if we had a circus train, that makes sense. Maybe they blow up the train at the end.
The way and maybe we're just picturing this different. Like I'm picturing this carnival almost like amusement park style, but with tents. Like there's like lots of tents. Like this is like not one big circus tent.
Yeah.
This is like lots of tents. So the trapeze is obviously in the big tent, but then like I picture the cage that they're like hiding in when the tiger attacks. Like that's just like a separate tent, maybe like where they just store the tiger. Like there's all these nooks and crannies throughout the thing. Because
agreed,
I think it's less interesting if it's just one big tent. It's hard for people to hide and do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, totally. There'd be a parking lot and all of that stuff. And maybe once Stan gets turned and he becomes evil, he like makes it his point to blow this stuff up. So you just see him like walking with a kerosene can through the parking lot, and it's just like, you know, he's not even thinking. You know, he's just blowing up all the cars and stuff. It reminds me a lot of Return of the Living Dead in terms of some of the zombie logic I'm going for. That movie does a great job of expanding some of the zombie lore. That zombies, they're completely intelligent. They're just people who are in intense pain because they're dead. And the only thing that makes them feel better is eating brains. And so there's this kind of like that Stan is just, it's to totally destroy human life. And it's a disease that affects both animals and humans. That's why I think we could bring in our the other creative requirement, which is a real person. So we bring in Reagan at some point. And it's like, you know, Mr. President, we need to bomb, you know, Dooley, Indiana, or wherever they're at. And he's just like, oh, well, all right, let's do it, or whatever. And they drop a nuke on it, which is actually what happens in Return of the Living Dead as well. But or maybe they get close to doing that and he's just briefed on it. I don't know. I'm playing around here. Or we could like shoehorn just a celebrity cameo there. Somebody big in the 80s, Magic Johnson. Yeah, and then he just gets eaten.
Bruce Willis as himself.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we could be really clever with that, or we could be, just funny with it. It doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think, do you think it's they kill all the zombies, including the elephant, and then that's the end, or do you think they kill? It's like one of those kind of partial hive minds where they kill the elephant and it kills all the zombies. Like the
Hmm.
elephant is the source of it in a sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if the elephant is the source. Um, I think it can be the biggest bad that's stopping people. It's like it's patrolling the train
Hmm.
yard slash the cars and stuff. So there's no getting around the elephant in the
Yeah.
room.
Yep. It's
And
the
so they
elephant in
just
the
have
room.
to, and they have to kill Stan. They have to kill the elephant and all these other zombies and stuff. And um, yeah, I think maybe the military comes in at the end. That could be something. Um,
Yeah, I feel like the military, like it seems too big for them to wipe out all of them themselves. That's
yeah,
the
they just
thing.
want to
So I
try and
feel
escape,
like
I think.
that, yeah, but I feel like some sort of threat of a bomb or something that's like they're like, oh, we got to get out of here. Like that's like the final thing
Yeah,
where they maybe
I got
trap
it.
the elephant or something. Yeah.
They're by a nuclear power plant. That's a whole thing. And so
Hmm.
Stan
Hmm.
gets the animals and they attack the nuclear power plant. Again, we kind of set up this as like a demonic, hatred of humankind. And so they're just like, they just know they can make the nuclear power plant go meltdown and that'll destroy
Hmm.
a whole big chunk of whatever. And so they're just kind of,
Hmm.
again, they're zombies that can think. And we have to articulate
Hmm.
this at some point, and that could be kind of a good along the lines, I think, is maybe they capture
Hmm.
one and they capture a parrot, maybe. That'd be kind of cool.
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
tells them, it has the capacity to actually talk. A
Hmm.
person would be easier, obviously, but I think that could be kind of cool. Where it just,
A parrot's fun though. I like that.
yeah. So what? Let's talk. Let's kind of land the plane here. We got Sid, we got Stella, we got Butter, we got Lousy. Uh, who survives? Who dies? What is the arc for Lousy? And then what is our title?
Uh, let's see. How do they? So who dies? I like. I feel like a lot of just background characters are going to die,
Yeah,
and I feel like they. I don't have any major beef with all of our main entourage living. I kind of want Butter and Lousy to definitely live. I think it makes sense for Stella to live because it's like that's the seal the deal thing. It's like, all right, now we're kind of an item. The only
yeah.
person is Sid. Sid could maybe die.
I could see that. I could see Sid sacrificing himself, especially since it was kind of on his watch. This thing, like we were burying our animals in a nuclear graveyard, like that was kind of on me. And he's like, Sid, how could you? And he's like, I didn't know. Uh, whoops a daisy. Uh, that's the title of the movie. Whoops a daisy. We're back to the chimp being named Daisy. No, I think that's a pretty solid thing that he, maybe gets in the clown car, drives into something, or maybe throws himself into whatever.
I think yeah, I was gonna say I think in the clown car it's like them getting around early in the movie, and then later like when there's like, oh no, things are looking bad, then like Sid had scampered off and he comes back with a full size like car, like his car,
Yeah,
and he's just like plowing through, like he parked it somewhere else
that'd
and
be
he's
kind of
like
cool. He has like an
plowing through.
oversized car.
Yeah, it's like gigantic. And he's like, and that's the thing is like he's like wiping out, there's all these animals and like wolves and bears, and
Oh
he's just
yeah.
like boom, boom, and it's like denting his car. He's like, yeah, yeah. And then like the elephant like stomps his hood and he's like,
Yes.
oh, and then like the elephant just like crushes the
Crushes
car,
the other
but he like
side.
takes out like 10 to yeah,
I like that.
he
I like
like
that a
takes out
lot.
like 12 animals, but the elephant takes out Sid.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. And then that can maybe set up how they take out the elephant. Um, which
Yeah,
I'm
I
actually
feel like they need some explosion.
either that or they crush it. You know, it's like they bring the big tent, the big pole down on top of it somehow.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
I think that could work. And that could maybe even be what Sid does. Like kind of going back to like I know that we said he gets stomped or whatever, but he could also just like metaphorically, thematically bring his own circus down on his own head.
Mm.
That maybe he's got like the clown car has been rigged with explosives somehow. And he's actually able to ride into there and he's like dodging all these animals and stuff because it's a small car. And he just like, you know, this is my circus and you know, I'm bringing down the house.
Yeah, if we could potentially still have that same scene where he's in his big car. The elephant doesn't kill him immediately. It just like kind of like stops him. Like he like
Yeah,
crashes
yeah.
into the elephant's foot, and the elephant's like gonna get him, but then Lousy's like, no, no. Like he's like Sid's all bloodied, and then he's like shooting at the elephant, and the elephant's going after him, and they're in the big tent. And then like Sid comes to, and then he's like seeing what's happening, and he's like, I gotta bring this puppy down. And he like guns this car, like, and he like hits one of the, like the pillars, like one of the things holding the big tent or something.
Yeah.
And that falls on the elephant. I don't know. That's just a potential idea. But I do like the idea of like Sid sacrificing himself so that uh he's kind of like paying the price of burying all these animals in radioactive waste.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great. I think we uh tied off Sid's arc. You know, he kind of paid for his sins with Lousy. What is his thing? Like, you know, what is the main story here? Does he find redemption in you know, he finds a new family? You know, he already had Butter. Does he seal the deal
Yeah.
with Stella? And that's kind of the thing.
Hmm.
Maybe even we kind of go back into his story where it's like he actually was really hot on some Vietnamese girl over there and was willing to like leave the military. But then she ended up being a Viet Cong and gets killed or whatever. And so
Hmm.
there's this like complicated relationship with women kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so for him to actually, you know, start a new relationship is something that um, kind of brings him full circle.
Yeah, I feel like there could be a scene when he does like Sid bring like because he's helping people throughout. Like he's like get somewhere safe, and he's just helping people. And then when the final Sid brings the house down and crushes the elephant, and maybe that's the last one. Maybe that's like the rest of the animals are dead. People all come out of hiding and they kind of cheer for him. Like that's kind of like the turning moment where he's like, "Oh, I'm not like
Mm-hmm.
I have some sort of purpose. Like people, like I was able to help all these people."
Yeah.
Because like you said, like it can't. I don't know if it can just be family because he already had Butter, so it's really just like I got the girl. Like I feel like it needs
That's
to be
true.
stronger. So
Well,
like the crowd like acknowledging him and like loving, like because maybe beforehand they're like this clown's the worst. I
but now that
want
he's
where's that
killing
other
people,
clown?
he's killing people that they're like, he's good at that. Yeah.
He's good at this.
Standing ovation. Uh, yeah, I think the thematic setup here is that Stan was the earnest clown, but like really fake underneath, whereas he was really real underneath and kind of fake on the outside.
Mhm.
And so Stan being the zombie clown, and he's just like zombieing over to the nuclear power plant, and we even have like National Guard is
Mhm.
brought in, the militia is brought in, and they get kind of steamrolled by these monsters and these zombies. And since he has military background, Lousy has military background. He's like, I know what the problem is. You know, General, I have to get me in that building. And he's like, get the clown in the building. You know, and they, you know what I mean? Like they are helping him. And we kind of are like escalating here a little bit, and we have a little bit of Rambo in there, I think, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
That it's like Rambo as if he was a clown and a good guy. That his handler shows up maybe and recognizes him. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I do think there's some big Rambo energy here that I could probably like
Mhm.
tap into. But he teams up with some military guys to go to that next mile, and he's like, I was you know, captain, first class, blah 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 blah, whatever the rank is, special forces
Mhm.
in Vietnam, sir. I need to be in that building. And he's just like, all right, everyone listen to the clown. and then they follow him, and it's like a whole genre twist a little bit. Now we're in like full action territory as they're going in after some military men that have been turned into zombies and Stan. So now there's like a zombified Bizarro group.
Stan's kind of like the big bad, actually. He's the final bad.
Yeah, I agree. And so, because he's the mirror image, he's the dark mirror image of him. And maybe even Stan had, I know we kind of said he was like a dweeby dude, but maybe he actually, we can make him more of that shadow, that kind of perfect guy on the outside, more of like a Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, where he's like, arrogant, was a decorated military guy, didn't get a dishonorable discharge, that kind of thing. And so then he's able to hunt him down, and he has a final showdown with Stan in the nuclear power plant.
I like it. And maybe after that, I don't know, maybe Sid left the carnival to him. I don't know. That's like some kind of crazy twist. Or like he's just helping pick it up. Or maybe it just ends there. He just has his life now Stella's interested. He's got butter. He's a hero. I like it.
Yeah, he becomes a hero. Like, I think he dishonorably, that's the thing, is like he followed a Viet Cong woman and actually got a lot of his men killed in Vietnam. And so he feels betrayed by the women, as well as like got punished by the military. And so now this is him coming full circle, and he actually is a hero, a military hero. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it, man. I think it's a solid film. I like Lousy. I think Lousy is the name, or Lousy the Clown.
I think Lousy is a great name. Yeah, Lousy, because that's the kind of film that is like the thematic journey is obviously his. Let's just name it his. And then he plays this kind of trope of the tramp clown. So a clown again with tattered face or sad face, tattered clothes. And that literally is what it is. It's like, it's Rambo. Rambo started out as a vagrant, as a just a homeless guy, and that kicked off Rambo. So that's kind of our 80s pull in right there. And maybe all we do to get rid of our other creative requirement is like, we've got Reagan on the phone. He's willing to drop a nuke on this nuclear power plant if it means that it's going to solve this. And he's like, no, we don't need to do that. That's going to cost way more life and blah, 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 whatever. And he becomes like a national hero.
All right, Zach, I like this story. I think Lousy is a great story. We just need to wrap this thing up with an Along the Lines.
All right, here we go. Along the lines, we are zeroing in on the military background that Lousy has. Let's call him Jack Barrow. Just give him a last name here at the last second.
I like it.
And pulling on heavily on our Rambo influences that we just figured out there at the end. I think he finds some sort of general at the end as they're approaching the nuclear power plant that Stan has run into. And our moment takes place in that first meeting. There's just a rush of people coming together. They don't know who's good guys. They don't know who's the bad guy at all. But they see this clown, leading a group of survivors. And he's like, get me to the man in charge. And those soldiers bring Lousy straight to the general, and he introduces himself. Again, this is pulling in that kind of that redemption arc of his, that he got some of his men killed. He was dishonorably discharged. And so he says this. He introduces himself to the general as Sergeant First Class E7 Jack Barrow, dishonorably discharged. But I'm here to make things right.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.